Ayy, look, yeah, ayy. I'm in the lab like Dexter, brand new batch he tested. I'm with all the extras, don't try and bitch, I'm pressure. I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers.
But aside from all of that, moving on from the San Francisco 49ers, let's go ahead and go to Seattle, the team that will be finishing second in this division now. Last year, the Seattle Seahawks surprised the world, shocked the world after moving off from their quarterback, their franchise guy, Russell Wilson, sending him over to Denver, getting a huge load of draft capital back. They ended up shocking the world, starting Geno Smith at quarterback, and ended up finishing off the season with a 9-8 record, making the playoffs. Unfortunately, they ran into the Niners and they ended up losing that playoff game, but nobody expected them to be there. They exceeded all the expectations. But going into this season, there's a lot of people that are saying these guys have the potential to be some sort of top 5 offense, and they're going to have some sort of crazy offense, and they're going to be even better than what they were last year. So I guess my question to you guys is: do you guys believe a regression is incoming for the Seattle Seahawks?
No. I like to poke fun about Geno Smith and talk about regression is going to be incoming, but when you look at it, like, depends on what are you referring to when you say regression is coming. I don't think he's going to have that outlier year in terms of his deep ball accuracy. I think he was just absolutely ridiculous with his accuracy, throwing deep passes, and of course that's going to come down a bit. But like, people need to understand, when they say Geno Smith is going to regress, I don't think they were looking at the level of throws that Geno Smith was putting out there. It wasn't just a schematic thing where guys were just getting open and he was hitting them, they're open. It wasn't a situation where, let's be honest, it's not like Tua where Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are getting open down in the field and he's just they're catching passes. No, it wasn't that. Geno Smith was genuinely hitting guys with throws that I seen from Aaron Rodgers. Like, I don't think people were understood that. Like, I think I counted like 5 throws from Geno Smith that weren't completed, but I was like, yo, those were throws that I've seen from Aaron Rodgers. I've seen multiple times throughout the season where his accuracy was on point. I mean, he led the NFL in completion percentage. I think he was 3rd or 5th in passer rating. He was just absolutely phenomenal in terms of how he was playing. And I don't see regression incoming from him in terms of his stats going down a huge chunk. I think he's going to be perfectly fine. And now you add, to me, the best wide receiver in the entire draft in JSN, a guy who's going to be an elite separator, a route runner, a guy who's going to get open. So, of course, when people have this as a top 5 offense, why not? You got a quarterback that I think he had the most yards ever by a quarterback in Seahawks history. And guess who played for this team? Russell Wilson. So, I mean, I don't see regression coming in for Geno Smith. If you talk about like a nosedive regression, no. If you're talking about his deep ball accuracy, sure. I mean, he had an outlier year in that sense, but outside of that, I think he's going to be perfectly fine. I think he's going to have a very, very solid year. And now they added they got Devin Witherspoon. They got Julian Love. They added pieces to this defensive team. I think they are pretty average in terms of pass coverage. I think they're around 14 or something. Their run defense was terrible, but they added Tremont Jones, I believe, and Jaron Reed. And so they beefed up their defensive line. They added more pieces on the secondary. So, when people talk about regression incoming for this team, I'm just like, how does that make sense when they added a great wide receiver to this offense that was already good? They added more pieces to their offensive line and the defense got better. I just don't understand how regression is going to be incoming for these guys. I think Geno Smith is going to be perfectly fine. Even during that stretch of games where, they start off 6-3, and then those next 5 games, they had, I believe, 4 losses, and it was the Tampa game, the Raiders game. I think you guys lost. You beat the Rams, and then I think after that there's like a loss or so. Even during that stretch of games, Geno Smith, I think he had 11 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, and his completion percentage was like 65% or something like that. So Geno Smith was perfectly fine even when you guys were losing. So I don't think that was a problem. I think the interior offensive line was terrible. I think that was a huge major issue. The run defense was, I mean, they gave up 200 yards to Josh Jacobs. They got ran over. It was like the team. I think everything else besides Geno is perfectly fine. So I don't really look at Geno Smith as an issue. I think the Seahawks are gonna be fine. I think they're gonna up their wins by 1 or 2, and which is perfectly fine in this division. I think 2 is definitely a possibility. They have the potential to be a top 5. Some could even argue they could potentially be the best offense in the NFL, and I have no problem with someone saying that. So, they might finish with 11 wins.
Being very nice today. Biggest, you're on mute, by the way.
We can't hear you, buddy.
We can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
No,
Now
we
we
hear
hear
you now.
you.
We hear you now.
No,
No,
you're
you
muted
muted
now.
again, but
There you go.
It's better now. Yeah, you already know mine. Last year people already talk about regression this, regression that. After we have 5-6 wins, there's a guy that's a Vikings fan saying, "Oh yeah, regression is immediately happening the next season," and it's only 7 weeks to the first season. So you already know my answer. I don't see no regression happening. Like I said last year, the only way we're going is to the top. Every move that we made, every move that we have gotten, every draft pick that we made this year has only made us better. Picking up Witherspoon and Jason in the first round. Obviously, that type of talent to get to those type of players is phenomenal. Like I said, getting Jaron Reed, Draymond Jones, getting Bobby Wagner back, getting Jamal Adams healthy on the defense. It's gonna add a lot. It's gonna add a lot to that defense to help that defense get better. And having our captain, our guy that was one of our best players on that team, Bobby Wagner, command the middle again. It's going to be phenomenal. And there's another linebacker that we were missing last year, Jordan Brooks, him coming back this year after, torn ACL as well. So, we have 2 fantastic linebackers coming back. Jamal Adams is coming back. And I can't wait. I feel like our defense is going to get much better than it was last year. Our interior D-line was getting torn apart. Our middle linebackers were getting cooked on the run game. And we were just getting gashed up the front. So I feel like, this year is going to be a different approach. We're going to come harder in the inside. And I feel like we're going to be a much, much better run defense. And our pass defense as well is going to be much, much better. So like people said, Geno Smith, they think it's an outlier. But for me, it's not. And I feel like he's perfect for the system. This is the type of quarterback that Pete Carroll likes, the type of quarterback that Pete Carroll wants. He has the targets on the offensive end. He has JSN. He has DK Metcalf. He has Tyler Lockett. And we got a breakout running back last year, Kenneth Walker, a guy that had 1,100 yards and big hitter. He had 7 touchdowns or 8 touchdowns. I'm not too sure how much touchdowns he had on the run ground, but he missed a couple games. And if he can stay healthy this year, that's our one issue with running backs, other than Marshawn Lynch. All of our running backs always been hurt. So I feel like, if he can stay healthy for a full year, full season, we got a dynamic offense. And I feel like, even as of right now, I can say that we have a top 2 to top 3 offense. And I feel like that's how we're going to end the season. So I don't see no regression happening to my Seahawks. We ended 9-8 last year. Like I predicted, I think we get 11 wins this year. So let's go Seahawks.
although I have them finishing 9-8, if somebody came and told me that the Seattle Seahawks will be finishing the season below 500, I honestly wouldn't disagree with them. I wouldn't fight it. My only issue with the Seattle Seahawks is
hater alert.
Let me land. Abdi, you mentioned even when they struggled, Geno Smith was quote unquote still good. I highly disagree with that. He in the last 9 games, in his last 9 starts, they went 3-6 in that stretch, 12 turnovers. That if that doesn't concern you, I'm not too sure what will. And we saw those turnovers each and every week. And going back to last season, I was raising concerns then, and it's the same now. I'm raising concerns now. Like, I think towards the end of the season, we kind of saw who Geno Smith really was as a quarterback, who he really is as a quarterback. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say like, he's going to have like some sort of terrible season. I just don't think he's going to be playing at that type of level that he was playing at in the first half of the season. And I think how he was playing in that second half of the season is who he really is. And so I think that's going to carry over into this upcoming season. And I'm not, obviously they have some tough games on their schedule.
Keep in mind, at worst, he still would have finished with a top 3 completion percentage in the NFL with those last 9 games that you're referring to. So
those 12 turnovers are something I just can't necessarily overlook. There's no completion percentage or touchdown to interception ratio that I could look at and confidently say, Geno Smith still plays solid during a stretch where these guys went 3-6 in his last.
But you're also ignoring the fact that there were a lot of factors that led to them. Like, are you going to sit here and tell me Geno Smith was responsible for these guys ending out the season like that?
I think he played. I think he played an extremely large part in them not and their downfall towards the end of the last season. Keep in mind, they only made the playoffs because you guys folded. Just keep in mind. They made it on the last day.
Unfair assessment, though. They had issues elsewhere. I mean, their run defense was damn near bottom 5 in the NFL. If anything, they're one of the worst units.
Did they get any better for the run defense?
They signed Draymond Jones. They have Bobby Wagner. They have Jaron Reed, and they're getting Jamal Adams back, and they have Jordan Brooks. Of course, they're going to get better. They signed defensive pieces, and they're getting guys back that are healthy. What are they going to get? Are they going to get worse on the end?
I'm not too sure if they get any better with those acquisitions. I know Jamal Adams coming back is going to be a huge help. Bobby Wagner, we'll have to wait and see. Although he had a great year with the Rams, a lot of people underlooked him on the Rams, but their D line, I'm not too confident in that D line. I think first things first. Although they took a very strong corner with that first round pick, I think it would have been better for them to take a defensive lineman to help beef up that line. Obviously, that was their main concern. Like last year, I was saying the same exact thing. I said they could have knocked off 2 birds with 1 stone, grab themselves a quarterback, grab themselves a guy on the defensive line, and move on in that situation. But everybody disagreed with me on that. Everybody said, no, the Seattle Seahawks are exceeding expectations. They're going to let them make the playoffs, let them do their thing. Geno Smith is the guy. Aside from all of that, they still have the same issues going into this upcoming season. We just don't know if they're going to be able to stop the run. We know how great their secondary is. It's going to be a long day for any elite wide receiver to.
Well, that's the point, though. They were
damage.
They're passing. Even their pass coverage was like 14th. They were average at best. They weren't particularly great. And now they get a guy who's arguably the best corner in the draft alongside Christian Gonzalez. Their secondary is obviously going to be better, and they have Jamal Adams coming back. So when I look at this unit, there's only one way up from here at this point. You know, they got Draymond Jones, they got Jaron Reed, they got Bobby Wagner, who's good. They got Jordan Brooks. Now they have Jamal Adams, and now they got Devin Witherspoon. That's a bunch of talent that they're going to get back or that they've signed. I just don't see how their defense is going to remain relatively the same or worse. I just don't get that. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say the Seattle Seahawks are going to have an elite defense. Absolutely not. I think their secondary is going to be much better. I think their secondary could finish as a top 5 secondary potentially. But I don't see. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that their run defense is going to be, a top 5 run defense. They're going to be like the Titans. No, but I do think that they're going to be improved on that end, and offensively they're going to be even better.
Their offensive line issues that still don't scare you. They still have offensive line problems. That hasn't changed.
I mean, now you get another guy on the wide receiver end in JSN, who's going to be another separator, and Geno Smith performed even with that offensive line being particularly bad last season. I think that just helps him even more when he has a wideout that he can throw to that's going to get off the line and release every single time. So I only see that this offense is going to be even better. And if somebody said the Seahawks going to have the best scoring offense in 2023, I'd be like, okay, that's a fair argument. I can agree with that.
I think teams just got a lot more film on him now, man. Obviously, coming into last season, nobody had any film on Geno Smith. He was a journeyman in the NFL. Found himself a home in Seattle. Started off the season extremely well. Didn't end the season extremely well, but
my thing is like when people like why didn't people notice it, like the throws that Geno Smith were making? It was not just like, oh, like he's catching people off guard. This guy was legitimately making throws that elite quarterbacks were making. Like he was making throws that only the elite of the elite were making. Geno Smith was throwing them into windows that were absolutely ridiculous. There's a reason why his completion percentage was like that. Now, do I expect him to lead the NFL in completion percentage? I don't know. Maybe not. But I do expect him to have a high completion percentage because of the throws that he were making. Those were not no average throws. Those were elite quarterback type of throws. So, like I like you pick up a guy like JSN with the Tyler Lockett, and you have DK Metcalf, and you have Kenneth Walker, and they drafted a guy in Zach Charbonnet. I think that they're going to be a good offense. I think maybe even top 2, maybe the best in the entire league.
I guess we're just going to have to agree to disagree on this one. I just honestly think, I think the Seattle Seahawks do have that type of potential, with all their added weapons, everybody that they got. But I like when teams address their needs in the draft, and I like when they address their needs in the offseason in free agency. I'm not too sure if the Seattle Seahawks did that to the best of their ability, but I guess there's only one way to prove it, and that's when week 1 rolls around.
Record a new hit, then we making us a film. Wouldn't sign a deal if I got a couple mil. Been in the lab, now they throwing out deals. Me and now Lakes, now that's overkill.